For a show as professional as Jeopardy, you'd often expect the usual trivia and intellect that's prominently displayed in every episode. But even one of the smartest shows in the world has its moments. Not only do we see unusual slip-ups, but the results tend to be really funny to watch on top of it.
Kara has obviously had much more experience than I.
Welcome to The Rewind. Today, we'll be counting down the top 10 funniest Jeopardy fails of all time. Before we begin, make sure to give this video a like and hit the subscribe button for good luck. Number 10. Trebek tries rapping.
In Nuttin' But a G-Thang, this doctor rapped, "Never let me slip, 'cause if I slip, then I'm slippin'."
I bet you didn't expect to hear something like this. Of course, this isn't something Alex Trebek chose to do out of the blue. One of the categories, called It's a Rap, had unique verses that required guessing the rapper behind the set of rhymes. Trebek would read out this particular category in such a manner that he couldn't help but rap the lyrics rhythmically, as if to better capture the essence of the verses themselves. One of the players found this funny, and Trebek couldn't help but call her out on it.
You go ooh and ah when I jump in my car. Mary.
Who is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Yes, and I don't know why that's making you laugh so much.
Number 9. Poop joke.
4th century AD, Rome had 28 public ones stacked with rolls of papyrus. Gary again.
What are public toilets?
No.
When a player gets stuck on an answer and can't figure out what to say, the next option is to use their sense of humor to at least get a laugh or two. When presented with the question stating, Rome had 28 public ones stacked with rolls of papyrus, the immediate answer that came to a player's head was public bathrooms, with rolls of papyrus probably referring to rolls of toilet paper. This was in fact not the correct answer, and was instead public libraries, with papyrus being used as paper.
Harvey?
What are libraries?
Libraries, yes.
Number 8. Comedy Hour.
He wrote down, who is the ghost, greatest host of syndicated TV? Oh, thank you.
In a round of Final Jeopardy, the players were asked which 2 directors received director Oscars, with none of their films winning Best Picture. The first 2 players with their answers read out loud didn't really know the answer, but they still put in some effort despite knowing they were wrong. One player put Alex Trebek as one of his answers, while the other incorrectly spelled his answer in Spanish. This was obviously meant for giggles, but Trebek makes light of it and welcomes the audience to the Jeopardy Comedy Hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Jeopardy Comedy Hour.
Number 7. Worst trio players ever.
Instrument heard here. Sandy?
What is a flute?
Nope. Each correct response has only one consonant. Flute has more than one.
The show might have many of the smartest people competing each episode, but what happens when no one knows any of the answers? This ends up being the case in one full round of Jeopardy, where its entire set of questions were either incorrectly answered or met with complete silence. The fact that this went on for an entire round was just icing on the cake, and neither player earned anything past $0 by the end of it.
Kristen?
What is the gold rush?
Nope. That's it.
Number 6. All ending in $0.
16,400. That means he drops to 0, and that means 3 zeros there.
Speaking of a trio of players ending up with $0, imagine a scenario where this ends up being the total score for everyone at the end of Final Jeopardy. Well, this is exactly what happens when all players guess the same wrong answer and choose to risk it all, resulting in all of them losing all the money they earned up until then. Not only was this unheard of, but it was the first time in Jeopardy history that the show ended with no winners at all, meaning none of them were eligible for any of the semi-final games.
What that means is we have no winner today, and this is the first time it has ever occurred in one of our tournaments.
Number 5. Wrong body part.
Take a look. The fur of this rodent seen here is said to be 30 times softer than human hair.
This next one might seem pretty easy to some people, with the requirement being that the answer has to start with a human body part. When presented with a picture of a certain rodent on screen, a player named Carl could barely mouth a word. He hesitantly answers with titmouse, knowing how suggestive and incorrect his answer was. Trebek corrects him by saying the rodent is a chinchilla, but that he expected Carl to guess with something like an armadillo.
What is a titmouse?
No.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What is the chinchilla? Thought you might have said armadillo, but go again.
Number 4. What is a threesome?
The three of them form one of these. Kara.
What is a threesome?
No.
It's one thing to guess an answer and know you're wrong, but it's another thing when you take a guess with the assumption that you might be onto something. When presented with an example of what is a love triangle, a player named Kara misinterprets the example and answers with, what is a threesome? The answer on its own was funny, not only because of how informal and unexpected it was, but because it actually made sense when you really considered it.
Kara has obviously had much more experience than I.
Number 3. Gutsy guess.
Answer. The other daily double.
$19,000.
Hello.
Philip would definitely be ranked number 1 if Jeopardy was a guessing game. Normally, a lot of guesses on the show are either blatantly wrong or just hilarious for the sake of being intentionally wrong. But for Philip, it ended up working in his favor. After a long gap of silence to allow himself some time to think, Philip finally said the first thing that could come out of his mouth, and to everyone's surprise, including his, he was right on the money.
What is Vancouver?
Yes.
Not only was this a very gutsy move on his part, but he also became an instant legend.
Wasn't that a gutsy move?
Number 2. Ken Jennings' famous answer.
This term for a long-handled gardening tool can also mean an immoral pleasure seeker. Ken.
What's a hoe?
No. Whoa!
In the pool of inappropriate answers on Jeopardy, none can compare to Ken Jennings' most famous answer on the show. When asked for a term to define both a gardening tool and an immoral pleasure seeker, not many people could blame Ken for his iconic answer, what is a hoe? Not only was it on the back of everyone's minds, it also felt like it should have been correct. Some even saying Trebek should have given Ken the point since he technically wasn't wrong. The correct answer was a rake. But we all know it's the same thing.
They teach you that in school in Utah, huh, Al? What's a rake? A rake is right.
Number 1. The best final answer.
I should mention that right now, all three of you have exceeded the minimums for third and second place.
We've talked about guessing your way to victory, but what if you admit to not knowing the final answer and still confidently predict your own victory? As crazy as it sounds, one player by the name of Leonard Cooper managed to pull this off. After being called on to present his answer, Leonard smiled as Trebek read his answer out loud, showing signs of glee even when openly admitting that he didn't write down the correct answer. Followed by the second half of his answer, reading, "But I just won $75,000. The best part was that Leonard bet $0, knowing full well it didn't matter what he wrote down. He knew he had the lead no matter how much money the other players would bet, ultimately winning the game without having to answer the final question right.
One of the things I love about the team tournament is these guys have marvelous senses of humor.
What do you think of our list? Before you leave, don't forget to give this video a like and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Check out these other videos from the Rewind, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video again.